Welcome to the deep dive. Let's get straight to it today. You've shared some really fascinating material about female orgasm, specifically focusing on achieving it more quickly, more consistently.
Yeah, whether solo or with a partner.
Exactly. And we've got excerpts here from Orgasm in 5 Minutes, 1001 Roads to Happiness. So it sounds like we're getting practical.
Very practical. And what's striking about this source is its core idea
Mm.
that quick, consistent orgasm is achievable for basically all women who are interested.
Mhm.
The main blocks, it argues, tend to be, societal baggage and maybe just a lack of clear info.
Okay, right. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. Let's pull out the really useful, actionable insights. We want to help cut through maybe some of the myths, offer concrete techniques, and just help deepen that understanding and experience of orgasm.
Agreed. It's about tackling those misconceptions, like you said, and giving people a clearer picture of their own bodies and pleasure. The goal is a more direct path to, well, enjoyment and better partnered sex, too.
Okay, so let's start with the fundamentals. What's the basic understanding we need, according to this book?
Well, the book jumps right in with a pretty bold statement.
Hmm.
If a woman wants to orgasm, she can. And often quickly and consistently. It really puts the emphasis on societal prejudice being the main barrier historically. Though, thankfully, it notes things are changing. Women are claiming their right to pleasure more now.
That's a really positive starting point. So building on that, what's the very first, practical thing it suggests?
Getting to know your own body intimately. It draws a helpful comparison, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it says for most women, clitoral stimulation, direct or indirect, is the main pathway. Kind of like how gland stimulation works for men. It points out that for many, penetration by itself just isn't going to be enough to get there.
Right, that makes total sense. Different wiring, different focus needed. So how do we start that self-discovery?
It suggests just taking some quiet time, exploring your vulva, the external area, gently touching the vagina, clitoris, urethra, labia, just getting familiar with the textures, the locations, your own personal map, basically.
Okay, simple exploration. And as we do that, what are the typical stages the body goes through? The book outlines those.
It does. It breaks it down into 4 phases. First is excitement. Think of it as the body waking up. Heart rate increases. Maybe breasts feel fuller. Nipples might harden. More blood flows down to the pelvic area. Vaginal lubrication starts. The uterus and labia begin changing too.
Okay, so the engine's starting. What's next?
Then comes the plateau phase. There's more internal changes. The vagina expands a bit more. The inner lips might darken. The uterus actually lifts up slightly, kind of preparing for potential sperm. You might feel that blood flow more intensely throughout your body.
Right, building up. And then the climax itself, what's happening then?
That's the peak, yeah. Blood flow to the breast gets even more intense. Breathing gets rapid. You might moan. The clitoris becomes fully erect. The labia swell up. And the key thing, rhythmic contractions of the vaginal muscles, usually like 3 to 7 times. That's the core sensation. Anal muscles might contract too. Heart rate and breathing hit their maximal.
Wow, okay, it really is a full body thing. And the cool down?
That's the resolution phase. Everything gradually returns to normal. Blood flow subsides, breasts go back, that feeling of satisfaction sets in. Heart rate slows, uterus and vagina return to their usual state. And sometimes you get that nice rosy flush on your cheeks from all the earlier blood flow.
So understanding those stages, getting familiar with our anatomy, that's step one. But the book also talks a lot about the mind, doesn't it?
Oh, massively. It makes the point that, quote, true sexual activity happens in the mind.
Mm.
It really stresses letting go of daily stress, but also that societal trash, as it calls it, the negative stuff we absorb about sex. Seeing yourself as a sexual being who wants and deserves orgasm that's framed as the absolute first, most crucial step.
That mental shift sounds incredibly important. It mentions making a conscious decision. What's that about?
It's about actively deciding, yes, I want orgasms. I intend to enjoy sex, solo, and partnered. It's presented as this really empowering act of claiming your pleasure, pushing back against those internalized shouldn'ts.
And it tackles some of those shouldn'ts head on. What myths does it try to bust?
Yeah, quite a few. Like the idea that feminine women don't initiate sex. It says that's personality, not gender. Or if you dislike certain acts, you're frigid. Nope, just personal preference. And not having constant erotic fantasies doesn't mean anything about your sexuality either. Your imagination is private, it argues.
It's so vital to dismantle those limiting beliefs. What about building sexual confidence? How does it suggest we do that?
It's about actively challenging negative self-talk,
Right.
kind of acting as if you feel attractive and sexy even if you don't fully believe it initially.
Hmm.
There's a great anecdote about how a male partner is usually just focused on the fact you're there, naked and willing, not microanalyzing flaws.
Yeah.
And confronting any guilt or fear maybe stemming from your upbringing is also key.
That act as if idea is interesting, fake it till you make it almost. And flirting comes up too. How does that connect?
It suggests that cultivating that open, warm, friendly attitude, the core of flirting, actually helps break down mental barriers to orgasm. It talks about eye contact, that triangle of seduction focus, making people feel seen and valued. This positive vibe boosts self-esteem and makes you more receptive mentally.
So, fostering positivity inside and out makes us more open to pleasure. Okay, let's get really practical. Masturbation. The book seems like a big proponent. Why?
Oh, absolutely. It lays out clear benefits. It's the best way to learn your own body, what touch, pressure, rhythm works for you. You're in total control, speed, intensity, all of it. And crucially, your pleasure isn't dependent on someone else figuring it out.
Hmm.
Plus, regular practice builds self-assurance. It can actually make you feel more attractive overall. It's like fundamental sexual literacy.
Sexual literacy, I like that. It's empowering, not just physical. So, what specific techniques does it suggest for solo exploration?
The main advice is, whatever feels good, do that. But it does recommend focusing on the clitoris initially, since that's key for most women. It also suggests that stimulating multiple areas at once often leads to, well, more intense results.
Can you give us some concrete examples it provides?
Sure. One is gently holding the labia open and slightly stretched up. This can apparently intensify direct clitoral touch.
Mm.
Another involves lying on your side, maybe putting a couple of fingers just slightly inside the vagina with small circles, while the other hand stimulates the clitoris directly, maybe faster and faster.
Okay.
Or even just rubbing your whole pelvic area against something soft, like a cushion for clitoral pressure.
Those are really tangible things to try. Does it mention exploring other spots besides the genitals during solo time?
Definitely. Breasts, especially nipples, inner thighs, all highlighted as erogenous zones. It suggests you can caress these areas before or during genital stimulation to build overall arousal.
And the famous G-spot? What does the book say about finding and stimulating that?
Right, the G-spot. Described as a small, slightly rougher patch, maybe an inch or so inside, on the front vaginal wall, the belly button side,
Uh-huh.
to find it. Lie on your back, knees bent, insert 2 fingers, palm up, about 3 or 4 inches in. Feel for a small bump, maybe dime-sized. Applying firm, steady pressure there can cause this swelling sensation, like an erection. Then you gently massage it while keeping that pressure up. The book calls the feeling unique and intense.
Sounds worth investigating. What about the urethra opening near the clitoris? Any pleasure potential there?
Yeah, I mentioned some women find gentle circular strokes around the urethra, the pee hole, basically pleasurable, often combined with clitoral stimulation. Just another spot to gently explore.
It's amazing how many potential pleasure points there are. The book even mentions emotional and alternative orgasms. What are those?
These are orgasms not solely from direct genital touch, like through intense chest or anal caressing, or even just powerful imagination alone. The book suggests combining stimulation helps maybe touching the clitoris while pressing the G-spot, or stimulating breasts or anus while also touching the clitoris, broadens the possibilities.
Really expands the definition.
Yeah.
And it even suggests playing with textures.
Yeah. Encourages exploring how velvet, silk, soft cotton feel against the skin. The idea is anything that sparks curiosity and breaks routine can enhance things. Keep it fresh, you know.
And timing. Does it mention anything about the menstrual cycle influencing things?
It has mentioned some research suggesting around day 18 of the cycle might be a time of like heightened readiness or responsiveness or orgasm for some women. Just another little factor to maybe be aware of.
Interesting biological note. Okay, but sometimes things don't go smoothly. What common woodblocks does the book address?
Several. One big one is putting too much pressure on yourself, rushing it. That leads to shallow breathing, tension, which hinders orgasm. Deep, relaxed breathing is key. Another is just feeling too tense, maybe lack of privacy, can't let go. Finding dedicated relaxation time, maybe breathing exercises, can help. Conversely, sometimes being too relaxed means not enough excitement builds. Then it suggests using fantasy or maybe trying something slightly different, safely of course, to inject some energy.
Makes sense. What about physical discomfort, like bad friction?
If friction's an issue, it's likely down to lack of lubrication. The book says it's totally normal to need extra help sometimes. Use saliva or a good water-based lube, especially if you're using fingers inside. Don't suffer through discomfort.
Good practical advice. And overall, for solo play, what's the takeaway message about how quickly orgasm can happen?
It cites stats suggesting women who masturbate regularly often reach orgasm in just 3 to 5 minutes from starting. No special prep needed. It frames it positively. If it takes longer, it's likely just about needing more practice, more self-discovery, not some fundamental problem. It suggests orgasm is readily accessible with practice.
That is encouraging. Okay, let's pivot now to sex with a partner. How does the experience differ, according to the book?
Well, physically, the orgasm feels the same, fundamentally. But the book really emphasizes the emotional connection, the intimacy with a partner. That emotional layer can significantly enrich the physical sensations, making it, different kind of experience altogether.
So the emotion elevates it,
Yeah.
but orgasm itself is still important in partnered sex, right? The book doesn't downplay that.
Not at all. It pushes back hard against any old idea that orgasm isn't as important for women within a loving relationship. There's that quote comparing sex without orgasm to a kissing your mother on the forehead. Nice, intimate, but insufficient. It says orgasm is essential for feeling satisfied, complete, relaxed in that context.
Okay, vital then. So how do we translate our self-knowledge into effective communication with a partner?
Communication is framed as absolutely central. Guide your partner. Tell them what feels good. Don't be afraid to take their hand and show them. Voice your preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, don't fake it. The focus has to be on your genuine pleasure. Faking just short-circuits the whole learning process for both of you.
That can be tough, but yeah, so counterproductive. The book also challenges that time myth, doesn't it? That women always take much longer.
Exactly. It tackles that 20-30 minute idea head on. It argues that a woman familiar with her body, who masturbates, has good muscle control, can orgasm quite quickly with the right clitoral stimulation from a partner. Suggests it doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out process if the focus is right. More efficient satisfaction is possible.
So what techniques does it recommend for achieving orgasm with a partner?
Building high excitement before intercourse is key. Lots of foreplay. Also, feeling empowered to masturbate during sex if needed in a comfortable position. It notes many partners actually find that really hot and engaging, and just reinforcing the absolute necessity of foreplay, kissing, caressing, building that desire, preparing the body.
Okay. Let's briefly touch on positions. It lists 10 most exciting positions. Without going through all 10, what's the main takeaway from that section?
The main point isn't that these 10 are magic, but that different positions offer different angles, different kinds of stimulation, different access points. It mentions missionary, woman on top, showing how even there you can adjust for clitoral contact. But it also introduces others like spoons variations, the cat, the scissors. Each offers something unique, maybe deeper penetration, easier clitoral access, G-spot pressure. The core message is experiment. Find what works for you and your partner in that moment. There's no single best.
Experimentation and variety sound key. The book also has sections on helpful tips and the link between fantasies and orgasms. What are some highlights there?
The tip section gets practical, using a mirror for self-awareness, maybe a stool or a firm bed for positioning. Using a pillow under the hips in missionary to change the angle. Simple stuff. It also mentions sensory things, warm water beforehand, mood lighting, it likes red, music, creating an atmosphere. And on fantasies, it's very direct. They're strongly linked to strong orgasms. It encourages letting your mind roam free. Mental focus is crucial for climax, and fantasies are a powerful way to get that focus.
So our inner world and outer environment both play big roles. What if someone feels they don't know how to fantasize?
The book kind of gently argues everyone can, but maybe feels inhibited or guilty. It normalizes fantasy. It's private, harmless. Doesn't mean anything bad about you or your relationship. Embrace the forbidden, it suggests. Practical tips include focusing on vivid details, practicing during masturbation, using happy memories, even writing fantasies down. Start simple. Imagine a scenario, recall a great moment, use erotica as a prompt, engage all senses in your mind.
Giving ourselves permission is a big part of it, it sounds like. Okay, moving on to toys and stimuli. What role do external aids play?
The book says, while your mind is powerful, tools can be great for sparking imagination and directly causing pleasure. Vibrators get a strong recommendation, especially for beginners maybe. Use them on the clitoris or explore other body parts, solo or partnered. It also mentions things like penis extenders for G-spot reach, cock rings for partners with premature ejaculation issues, even panties with built-in stimulators for subtle rubbing during the day.
Quite a range. What about things like erotica, magazines, porn?
It mentions women's magazines with testimonials. Reading other stories can be validating and arousing. And it tackles porn, saying visual stimuli can be powerful for women too, not just men. Encourages an open mind, setting aside judgments.
Exploring what works for the individual without shame. It even gets into taste and sound.
Playfully, yeah. Using a little jam or ice cream for oral sex,
Yeah.
and sound, listening to recordings of moans, evocative music, even recording yourselves to listen back later, using all senses.
Creative and sensual. Now, there's a chapter aimed at male partners. Guys, this is what we like. What are the key messages for them?
It tries to clear up common male misconceptions, like clitoris isn't the only thing. Women need to feel desired first. Don't just rush the physical. Huge emphasis on not going straight to the point. Foreplay is essential, non-negotiable, really. And it clarifies that violent or overly rough sex usually isn't the way to deeper orgasm for most women. Rhythmic, smooth, considerate is better.
Prioritizing connection, taking time, being mindful. What specific tips does it offer men?
Undress her slowly, with care. Kiss her a lot, imaginatively.
Right.
Make her feel attractive. Tell her. Show her. Take time.
Trump.
Pay attention to her responses, sounds, body language. Talk about what feels good for both of you. Communicate.
And it outlines an appropriate sequence for lovemaking.
Yeah, a gradual build-up. Start with gentle, all-over kiss caresses. Move to breast body. Then very gentle vaginal exploration, maybe just fingers lightly inside. Crucially, gentle clitoral caressing should be happening during this foreplay, not just safe for the end or aimed immediately at orgasm. Then, specific tips for oral sex. Start gentle, outer lips, then inner, then clitoris, letting your guys pace pressure. And for penetration, gradual approach, rhythmic smooth movements, pauses, maybe continued clitoral touch if possible, whispering feelings. It's a whole connected flow.
Sounds very considerate and focused on her whole experience. Okay, the book also touches on sex and fear, contraception, and STIs. Just a quick overview.
Key message. Sex is for pleasure and connection, not just babies.
Yeah.
So contraception is vital for worry-free enjoyment. It briefly lists methods. Condoms, crucial for STI protection too. Diaphragm, IUD, pill, morning after pill, emergency only. Rhythm method, less reliable. Injections, implants, patches, ring. Permanent options like tubal ligation, vasectomy. And STI knowledge is essential for safety. Brief overview of syphilis, herpes, gonorrhea, fungi, HIV/AIDS transmission, prevention, hygiene, doctor visits, and again, condoms are stressed for prevention.
Absolutely crucial info. Okay, finally, deepening pleasure and addressing doubts. How can we aim for longer, more intense orgasms?
It suggests things like consciously tensing and releasing vaginal muscles, like Kegels, during sex. Also edging, stopping stimulation right before orgasm, then starting again.
What about simultaneous orgasm?
That takes knowing your own arousal patterns well, learn and control, lots of communication, verbal and nonverbal cues, and practice together. It also briefly introduces Tantra, the spiritual side, aiming for a cosmic orgasm. Requires trust, time, calm, non-touch caresses first, synced breathing, then still penetration with muscle contractions.
Interesting. Anal sex.
Gradual approach advised. Relaxation, lots of lube, start with a finger, go slow.
Yeah.
And generally, break routines. Try different times, places, activities around sex.
Keep it fresh, and it tackles common doubts people have.
Yeah, brief examples. Like for premature ejaculation, pause squeeze techniques. Worry if partner isn't enjoying it. Indirect but clear communication. Uncomfortable changing positions. Focus on your pleasure first. Feeling awkward during oral. Focus on sensation. Guide the pace.
Incoming complaints.
Like sex feeling like effort. Knowledge makes it easier and more fun. Lack of fantasies with the partner. Private fantasy is okay, not infidelity. Not orgasming with men. Teach them what works for you. It's very empowering.
Sounds incredibly supportive, and the testimonials just add a human element.
Exactly. Little snippets keeping desire alive long-term, revitalizing things with new approaches like Tantra, stories of first orgasms, makes the advice feel more real.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, what are the absolute key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is just how attainable and enjoyable female orgasm is, solo or partnered. That's the core message. Knowledge is absolutely power here. Understanding your body, what feels good. Communication is non-negotiable with partners. And really breaking down those internal barriers, the societal stuff, giving yourself permission. Experimentation and self-discovery aren't just okay, they're vital and exciting.
That's a great summary, positive and empowering. So what final thought do you want to leave listeners mulling over?
Maybe think about which single idea or piece of information we talked about really struck a chord with you. And then what's one small, tiny step you could take, maybe even today, to explore that aspect of your pleasure, either on your own or with a partner. Just remember that learning about this stuff and talking about it openly with yourself, with partners, that's really the ongoing key to a fulfilling sex life.
Wonderful. Great food for thought. And finally, how can listeners engage further, maybe help guide future deep dives?
Oh, please do. We'd love to hear what else you're curious about regarding sex, pleasure, relationships, any specific challenges you're facing. Your questions and experiences really help us figure out what topics to tackle next. So definitely reach out and share your thoughts.